All right, so I think we got the recording up and running here. So this is the CMake update, also from Matt Benjamin. Matt, you want to give us a rundown of what's going on in the CMake world?
Sure, and I should say that what I thought was pretty cool was we no, this one's really short, but I went to I wasn't able to attend in the previous CDS. I wasn't able to attend the talk that Ilya gave, so I'm kind of mention what's happened and not happened. We've we started it internally, and then we wanted to try to get it upstream if possible, because our original goal was to make um, Ceph build faster, especially on multi-core machines. We had experience converting NFS Ganesha from auto tools to CMake, and we had evidence from there were big speedups to be had they come from a variety of sources, and but and we knew and we I guess what part of it is just pure desire performance, and the other thing is for both performance reasons and other reasons we don't really like libtool, and wanted to escape it everywhere if possible. But as background, the main there have been various stages, and it's kind of traveled through different internal branches and external branches now. The initial CMake work we did was done by our hardworking intern Ali, who's actually nearby here, and the rest of us have kind of backed on it in different branches, and we've had an issue of we've had work to do to try to merge those changes back together, and we've been trying to do that. The first version of CMake, which people haven't seen, I guess, looked a lot like the AutoTools build. It was kind of like one-to-one almost in terms of the hierarchy of files and the targets. And it was missing some things. But we pushed upstream. I think it was back in February. Had covered most of Emperor, built everything we were using internally. It didn't cover everything. It didn't cover tests, among other things. But the big change that happened there, and I haven't gotten. I'm interested in getting feedback on it. Is that the big change that was an improvement for certain is that we consolidated all the targets, so we further reduced the number of objects being built multiple times, and at the same time we changed the file structure to have just only a couple of files, basically the top level CMake and the source CMake, since most everything was essentially building there anyway. This makes at this point we know that this isn't absolutely necessary. I think it was partly motivated initially to ensure that we could consolidate targets. I mean, we now know that we're pretty certain we don't have to do that now. So we believe we can use the target objects nomenclature across files, and it just works. But one way is better than another for maintainability, and that would be interesting to know which is better. We've been working in order to sort of keep things going upstream. I pulled all this to to Firefly, our latest file, and which now builds the latest version, and it now builds I think essentially everything on Firefly. Adam Emerson here added tests. We're putting the final touches on that, and also we improved the way we're generating some internal files like Ceph.c, and we also improved the way and fixed problems with installation scripts and things like that. So that's the status. Since this is the first time I haven't had a chance to really ask, are there folks interested in CMake? Does it have a future upstream? And any other feedback?
Yes. We're very interested. Yeah, I think generally we would be happy to move to CMake, because if only because it's a different kind of pain than AutoTools, and we're tired of that pain. I think the only challenge is that there's a bunch of sort of stuff around the edges that we need to make sure is still going to work. So there's the detection of various libraries. We have a bunch of random configure.ac crest that's doing that. We need to make sure that all sort of carries over properly. There's like the whiprocksdb stuff. They just auto makeified the make file there so that it could like get linked in, and we have to do the same thing with CMake. Hopefully that's an easy thing. But there's probably just a bunch of like mop up to make sure it all works. So I think the thing to do is to get it in a branch in the Ceph.git repository, and then push it out to the main Ceph repo so that all the Git builders can build it on all the different distros and see which ones fall over, and make sure they all sort of don't.
That makes sense. We have there's now a Firefly-CMake branch. I wanted to do a couple of cleanups from it, because Adam's already working some test compiles. At that point, we could produce we could put a single patch essentially on there, a single change. There were a couple of trailing changes that happened at the tip of Firefly, so I don't know where it should go.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a thing with int types that's really nasty, that I have a patch for that has been fixed differently upstream in different ways. And maybe one other thing, but then we would at that point have a candidate branch to immediately make, I guess, a whip CMake out there.
Okay. Yeah. A whip CMake that's sort of pulled forward to current master would be ideal.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that would be best.
Next or something close.
Okay, I'll move it to master.
Yeah. Okay. One other thing, just as an aside. So one of the biggest reasons why CMake is faster is because it's not doing the libtool thing where it builds 2 targets for everything with and without fpic. Right? I was talking to Luis last week, and he noticed the same thing, but apparently there's an auto tools thing where you just set like shared equals 0 or shared equals 1 or whatever in your environment, and it will do, libtool will do the same thing. It'll only build the 1 target, and he like cut the build time in half, basically.
Well, that's part of
I
it.
wonder if that is okay.
Well, it's definitely part of it. And we noticed that right away, and it's trivial, surely true. But when I started building things multiple times, it's not just that. Of course, there's also so you're right. You can make auto tools go much faster. I do think that CMake is still faster. I think it's faster because you don't invoke libtool, and which is the shell complex, and also makes it. Well, let's be honest. And I think. Which also means that it's easier to debug things in tree. I like that. But I think it also probably does a better job right now of parallelizing. But to be honest, I mean, who knows? People can make things faster back and forth. But we can build Ganesha in about 10 seconds on a 10-core machine. Ceph C++, it builds slower. But we've been finding things that we're convinced it's faster. But I mean, head to head, I can't promise that it's always going to be faster. Switching to Clang will be apparently too.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, I believe it, but the only thing I worry about is that it's less common than auto tools, and there's going to be a little bit of pain with the sort of the long tail of weird distros or whatever, that sort of the odd corner cases that auto tools tends to be good at that you then pay for the rest of the time. But
yeah, that's exactly true.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Okay. So is there anything that we actually have to do here then, besides just wait for your whip branch?
I can probably send, if I'm lucky, I might be able to send master.CMake or whatever whip CMake prototype proto branch later today, and then someone can at least look it over and see. I think the first thing I would do is just to have someone maybe have some folks scan it, look for a thing. I'll do myself, but I would love to get a second or third or multiple pairs of eyes finding missing targets or other things that people that ought to be different, or that actually no one actually cares about it. So at some point, this is trivial enough work, or simple enough, or at least work that everyone does all the time, just editing targets. So if no one finds anything hateful in it, then who cares? But not covering everything is stupid. So
yeah, okay. Well, maybe it's probably worth it to take just a minute to figure out what the sort of annoying quarter cases are that we're going to hit. The weird stuff that we did with auto tools that we need to make sure that we address properly.
I don't know of a whole ton of yeah, of course. And I mean, above in the main body of the code, it seems like there are only a few things like gristing some files, which we have solutions for. and so like substituting shell files and Ceph and a few of those things. Those are straightforward. Finding stuff, which what you do with them in various random ways with auto tools, M4 and whatnot, which you do with little package finds in CMake modules with CMake. We find everything that we use, plus we have forward ones, that find XIO and CDS and things like that. Okay. And then past that, there might be things people are doing that are in different for some of those ahead upstream things like RocksDB, but typically it's not very much. We are turning on, as people look at compile flags and things, we don't have a lot of really select. We have various selectors, but in terms of pick, we've just been turning it on. I don't have a lot of evidence that would be reasons to not do that on most platforms. But there can be something there. But certainly on AMD64, x86 64, you want it generally.
Did you resolve the? I know I was sort of painfully got the YASM stuff integrated in the build because we have some assembler stuff for the Intel accelerated CRC stuff. Is that in the current?
I think so. I think Web Crypto PP was something we did. I'll take a look at the YASM. I don't have Ali is in the background. Do you remember YASM? Okay, we don't remember YASM, so I'll take a look at that. Is it on Firefly? It is on Firefly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came in like Emperor-ish.
Well, things build in Link, so I think, but I'll check for any issues with the YASM.
Okay. See what else. There's just various headers, utils, crypto. Yeah, I mean, there's all this library detection. I assume is all in there. We just get refused. There's a bunch of JDK craft about finding which JDK to build the Java wrappers against. Do you know if that's part of it?
I don't remember much about that. And there was new stuff that came on Firefly for that, right? So I'll cross check and make sure we've got that. We may not have all the food for that. I know there's people that love working with that kind of problem.
Yeah.
Intake.
This is the thing you hate to touch. That's the only fear. Live atomic ops. So let's see. There's the rocks. Okay, so there's submodules. There's RocksDB, which actually isn't in master yet, so you don't have to worry about that one yet, but soon. There's libs3, and what's the other submodule that we have? CivicWeb.
It seems to kind of work with CivicWeb. I haven't found a problem. I know I've compiled against that.
Okay, so you just added CMake stuff to those trees also, or did they already have CMake files present?
It didn't seem well. I mean, I didn't try to turn CivicWeb external Git into CMake.
I see. Okay.
So I mean,
yeah, I mean that might be something that we have to carry going forward if upstream CivicWeb is AutoMake or something else. Then we might have to have a couple patches on top that just add CMake files.
Well, right now it just has make files, and so it just kind of works. So you can I forgot how you work it. But I mean, yeah, you can absorb a whole thing into CMake by dropping a CMake list file into it. And we do that with RPC with our RPC stack and in Ganesha, but you don't have to. So
okay. So you can do it as a regular make. Okay. Okay. What about the Ceph version thing? We have all these weird rules to pull a version out of Git and put that in a file that gets compiled in.
That was carefully done. We have that. We have an implementation of that.
Cool. Okay. Well, that sounds good to me then. Like make check triggers a bunch of random.
I've never typed make check, so probably there's something wrong with it. Look at it.
Blasphemy. No. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. So right now in AutoMake that triggers. They're all the unit tests that get built. So there's a whole bunch of extra targets from the test directory, and it runs all those.
Okay.
To test stuff, but then there's also like random bash scripts that it runs. that like spin up little test clusters and run the encode decode stuff.
Well, that's advanced. As I said, we just got done with this. We're finishing up a set of targets for all the tests on Firefly. We'll have to cross check and see what happens when make check is run. It wants to build them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I think that's everything that comes to mind for me, at least.
All right. Well,
Anybody
we're only
else?
about halfway through the session, so we've plenty of time for questions. Or you can use the second half to talk about the stuff you were alluding to at the beginning of the session here, the development time window stuff.
Yeah. Or we could also start the topology thing a bit early if we want to do that.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think we're squared away on CMake. So Ilya also was looking at some of this because he also wanted to do builds where the target is outside of the source tree, and he made just enough changes to do that top of your stuff to make that work, and then has been sitting on it. But he's probably the one to help with getting this merged into the tree.
Yeah, I had a sense that it ought to do that already, but I haven't. I often build in tree. We build Ganesha auto tree all the time. So yeah, I would be interested in seeing a branch like that. We could merge it or whatever.
I think you might have it might be your branch plus like maybe a tiny thing or not at all.
No, I was using your branch just with the RBD added because the original CMake branch from December, January didn't build RBD.
Yeah,
for me, it's not so much the different source tree. I'd also do in tree, but I want that in tree to be read only, and libtool doesn't allow that. So I want to export that tree read only to a bunch of virtual machines, and libtool wants to write to that tree, and that's too bad.
Okay, that makes sense. We hopefully fix that, but I mean, yeah, it would be great to get a review of the next whip.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will be able to use your next whip without any changes because I had just a tiny change that was adding RBD to the binary to the.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we have two options, and I think this is sort of wrapped up. We can talk about if anybody has opinions on the release cycle stuff, we can talk about that for a little bit, or we can just jump into the next topic, which is the CI and topology roadmap stuff first. Anybody have preferences?
A resounding meh.
Wow, Loic volunteers to do CMake early. Dan is muted, but he wants to be the refactor. Well, I think we should just jump into the CI topology stuff.
All right.
I think the CI topic in particular going to be. I think there are lots of ideas and a lot to sort of prioritize.
All right. Let me swap the recording.
Yeah. Right.